This is actually chapter 3, but somehow it's written in the PDF. This chapter 1. So it's chapter 3, moving deeply into the now. Don't seek yourself in the mind. I feel that there is still CT great deal. Okay, let me just get the book here. I feel that there is still a great deal I need to learn about the workings of my mind before I can get anywhere near full consciousness or spiritual enlightenment. No, you don't. The problems of the mind cannot be solved on the level of the mind. Once you have understood the basic dysfunction, there isn't much else that you need to learn or understand. Studying the complexities of the mind may make you a good psychologist, but doing so won't take you beyond the mind. Just as the study of madness isn't enough to create sanity. You have already understood the basic mechanics of the unconscious state, identification with the mind, which creates a false self, the ego, as a substitute for your true self rooted in being. You become as a branch cut off from the vine, as Jesus puts it. The ego needs are endless. It feels vulnerable and threatened, and so lives in a state of fear and want. Once you know how the basic dysfunction operates, there is no need to explore all its countless manifestations. No need to make it into a complex personal problem. The ego, of course, loves that. It is always seeking for something to attach itself to in order to uphold and strengthen its illusionary sense of self. And it will readily attach itself to your problems. This is why, for so many people, a large part of their sense of self is intimately connected with their problems. Once this has happened, the last thing they want is to become free of them. That would mean loss of self. There can be a great deal of unconscious ego investment in pain and suffering. So once you recognize the root of unconsciousness as identification with the mind, which of course includes the emotions, you step out of it. You become present. When you are present, you can allow the mind to be as it is without getting entangled in it. The mind in itself is not dysfunctional. It's a wonderful tool. Dysfunction sets in when you seek yourself in it and mistake it for who you are. It then becomes the egoic mind and takes over your whole life. So the whole issue is that if, till the time we do not get this thought into our awareness and the awareness of the mind, that me as an individual is not the mind, and there are two separate identities. You are different, your mind is different. जब तक हम इस थॉट प्रोसेस से नहीं चलेंगे, तब तक माइंड अपने with his best buddy ego will keep on continuously making such weird experiences, weird thoughts, that you start falling into that trap of the mind or trap of that ego. Now, I said very clearly, the mind in itself is not an issue, but जो हमने mind को दर्जा दे दिया, for example, the status we have given to our mind, and we have equated it as our own self, that this is me, that has brought in the ego in the mind. So mind is definitely required, but that association with the mind needs a change. So that association came in chapter 1, that you are not your mind. And when that association gets into your awareness, the ego is that part which craves attention, that dissolves, because usko wo humne hi di hai. So the ego has been created by us, by our identification with the mind as ourselves. तो उसको इतनी importance मिल गई that, that is where the ego, the attention, came in. And then now when we are starting to, with this thought of disassociation, that we are not our mind, that is where the ego starts to dissolve. That is where we as a being, the seed of the being, get an experience to be in the present moment, in the now. And whatever in the now, whatever is, and that's the isness. End the delusion of time. It seems almost impossible to disidentify from the mind. We are all immersed in it. How do you teach a fish to fly? Here is the key. End the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable. Remove time from the mind and it stops, unless you choose to use it. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future, and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. The compulsion arises because the past gives you an identity, and the future holds the promise of salvation, of fulfillment in whatever form. Both are illusions. But without a sense of time, how would we function in this world? There would be no goals to strive toward anymore. I won't even know who I am, because my past makes me who I am today. I think time is something very precious, and we need to learn to use it wisely rather than waste it. Time isn't precious at all, because it is an illusion. What you perceive as precious is not time, but the one point that is out of time, the now. That is precious indeed. The more you are focused on time, past and future, the more you miss the now, the most precious thing there is. Why is it the most precious thing? Firstly, because it is the only thing. It's all there is. The eternal present is the space within which your whole life unfolds, the one factor that remains constant. Life is now. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Secondly, the now is the only point that can take you beyond the limited confines of the mind. It is your point of access into the timeless and formless realm of being. So, very beautifully written by the author. Time and mind go hand in hand, because mind ka kaam sara time, bringing the awareness, taking the attention to either the past or to the future, not in the now. Whereas life is happening in the now. Right now it is happening. What has gone, when that happened, it was that time in the now. So everything is actually in the now. So if we are, if we are able to enjoy this part of it, whatever is happening right now, that is why, we heard a lot of stories and a lot of forwards were there, messages. Why is the current time called as a present, as in a gift? Because that's the only thing there is. जो होना था वो तो हो गया, but जब वो हुआ, that was in the now at that time. Or whatever is lined up in our future, whenever it will come, you should be there in the now to embrace it. आज मैं अगर सोच के बैठ जाऊं कल क्या होना है, परसों क्या होना है, मैं आज का तो फन खत्म कर रहा हूं ना. Now why is it said that the most precious time is now? Because that is the time where you are experiencing it for the first time, and that is the beauty of accepting whatever is coming to you. अगर मैं आज जो मेरे साथ अभी हो रहा है, for example, we are in this book reading session, and whatever line we are reading right now, अगर हम उसको enjoy ना करें, चैप्टर के बाद में सोचना शुरू कर दे, यार अगले चैप्टर में क्या आएगा, यार पिछले चैप्टर का तो मेरे को समझ ही नहीं आया, would you be able to enjoy the book? No. That is why it is the present moment. That is why it's a gift. And this book is about being in the now. So अगर हम अपनी माइंड की अवेयरनेस या अटेंशन को बार बार पास्ट में, बार बार फ्यूचर में लेते जाएंगे, we won't be able to enjoy the beauty of the actual time where their experience is being created for the first time. It's like you have a small kid. Okay, all of us are young parents. Remember the first time when your kid walked, when he took those first 2, 3, 4 tiny steps. अगर हम उस टाइम पे वो चीज देख के enjoy कर सकते हैं, we were there in the now. But just imagine if we would have missed that for नहीं, जब ये पूरा चलेगा मैं तो तब देखूंगा. No? Those are the beauties of time. So whatever is in the now, whatever is in the process of creation, whatever is in the process of unfolding in the present moment, that's the whole beauty. चाहे वो हमने अभी एक बुक रीडिंग के एग्जांपल से दिया, चाहे वो हमने एक seeing our kids walking के एग्जांपल से देखा, जो प्रेजेंट मोमेंट में इन द नाउ रह के हम उस एक्सपीरियंस को एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, वो पास्ट और प्रेजेंट में नहीं आ सकता. हाँ, जब हम उस इवेंट को रीलिव करेंगे, that is going back in the now of that time. We do that generally for a happy moment. But the beauty of seeing it for the first time, where it was being created for the first time, that has its own charm. That is why it is a present. That is why they say, it is important to be in the now, because that is what is. Next second, that's the now. Next second, this is the now. So time is just going to go. But we need to be very, very clear that we need to be at that moment of creation, of that moment of the present, of the now. Nothing exists outside the now. Aren't past and future just as real? Sometimes even more real than the present. After all, the past determines who we are, as well as how we perceive and behave in the present. And our future goals determine which actions we take in the present. You haven't yet grasped the essence of what I am saying because you're trying to understand it mentally. The mind cannot understand this. Only you can. Please just listen. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Do you think you ever will? Is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? The answer is obvious. It is not. Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. What you think of as the past is a memory trace stored in the mind of a former now. When you remember the past, you reactivate a memory trace and you do so now. The future is as an imagined now, a projection of the mind. When the future comes, it comes as the now. When you think about the future, you do it now. Past and future obviously have no reality of their own, just as the moon has no light of its own, but can only reflect the light of the sun. So our past and future only pale reflections of the light, power, and reality of the eternal present. The reality is borrowed from the now. The essence of what I am saying here cannot be understood by the mind. The moment you grasp it, there is a shift in consciousness from mind to being, from time to presence. Suddenly, everything feels alive, radiates energy, emanates being. So, whatever is always in the now. जो past का भी event था, that was also that former now, and whatever is going to be in the future is going to be in the now. So if we can practice being in the present moment, being in the now, that is where the mind, or probably the egoic mind, the ego part of the mind, has nothing to do. क्या करेगा वो? उसको अटेंशन चाहिए. अटेंशन कैसे मिलेगी? जब हम इन द नाउ आ गए, प्रेजेंट मोमेंट में आ गए, जस्ट लिविंग द मोमेंट, देयर इज नो जजमेंट. ये ऐसे क्यों हो रहा है? ऐसे कैसे हो गया? देयर इज नो कंपैरिजन. यार कल तो बड़ा अच्छा था, आज कैसे हो गया? कल पता नहीं क्या होगा. So it ultimately boils down to the jack, which is the basic working of the mind, because in the now में कोई judgment नहीं है, कोई कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं है, बिकॉज एक्सपेक्टेशन तो फ्यूचर इवेंट की है. कल कैसा होना चाहिए, क्या होना चाहिए. कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है, बिकॉज कोई पास्ट नहीं है. और कोई क्रिटिसिज्म नहीं है, बिकॉज वो भी अगेन इज समवॉट अ सिमिलर पार्ट ऑफ अ कंपैरिजन. You will only criticize something if you know there is something which is better. Then again, that's a part of the comparison. So in the now, you're free from all judgments, all expectations, all comparisons, and all criticism. Because all those are part of the egoic mind, and they have their connections with either a past event or a future possibility. That's never in the now. In the now is as it is. No judgment, no expectation, no comparison, no criticism.
Arjun, why, just being mind's advocate here, why I mean, mind could say that I'm also a part of the now, in the sense that when we are reading this book with you, we are applying our mind. It's only the ego when it comes, as when you do go into the JECC, But if you're just in the now, you're applying your mind on the book and you're reading. You're trying to absorb, the learnings. So you are putting your mind at work, being consciously aware. But it's only the ego part of it when it takes you in the past or the future. But it says that when you are in the now, you're in the being. You're not in the now. You're not in the. You're not your mind. You are your being. Whereas mind could say that no, I'm also a part of the now, because you are applying me when you are absorbing the things from the book. You know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I'll tell you.
Might be too theoretical, actually.
The mind is definitely required to be, because that is why it was given to you in the first place. So you were given two things when you came on School of Earth. You were given the mind, you were given this uniform, the body. But हमने माइंड को इतनी पावर दे दी कि ये तो मैं ही हूं, उसमें ईगो आ गई. ओके, तो ईगो पार्ट को तो हमें डिसॉल्व करना है, बट दिस इन द नाउ में भी हमें माइंड को भी साइड रखना है. See, I don't need my best people all the time. I want them to also rest. Na? Let them be. Since I am now aware that I am a seed of the being and my mind is separate, तो मैं अभी in the now में माइंड को भी कह रहा हूँ बेटा तू भी चिल कर, रिलैक्स कर, कुछ नहीं सोचना. क्या सोचेगा माइंड? माइंड का थॉट प्रोसेस क्या आएगा? Just close your eyes, think of a thought. It will be either of the past or of the future. Where is it in the now? That's the whole thing. अगर हम माइंड के एंगल से ही उसको एनालाइज करेंगे तो हम या पास्ट में जाएंगे या फ्यूचर में जाएंगे. हम इन द नाउ में आ ही नहीं सकते. माइंड आ ही नहीं सकता इन द नाउ. माइंड का काम क्या है? थॉट लेके आना. कोई भी थॉट, you take a random thought, take a 5-6 random thoughts. They are either of the past or of the future. Mind never talks about now. Enjoy. No. माइंड का कोई भी थॉट आएगा, इट विल बी ईदर ऑफ अ पास्ट और अ फ्यूचर. अगर वो इन द नाउ आ गया, एक्सीलेंट माइंड. वी वांट टू यूज आवर माइंड. ही इज आवर बेस्ट बडी, बट he cannot control us. He needs to be the way we want it to be. मिला तो हमें माइंड और बॉडी दोनों है, दोनों का इक्वल इंपॉर्टेंस है. बट उसमें माइंड में जब वो ईगो आ गई, या बॉडी में भी जैसे कहते हैं ना, देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट कॉल्ड बॉडी ईगो आल्सो, व्हिच इज कॉल्ड बॉडी मेमोरी ईगो. Everybody has different names for it. So that is where they try to control the being. They feel that they have this, because it's not their. अगर मैंने एक बंदे को या एक चीज को इतनी important,
I know what you mean. Yeah. So right now my mind was actually playing games by, trying to slip in a soft card by saying, यार मुझे ना तू दूर कर यार, मैं भी तेरा बडी हूँ, मैं भी नाव में होना चाहता हूँ. And then slowly I will take you to the present and the past. Yeah.
That's why I call it the lanky fellow. They're always playing tricks.
Achha, one question, Arjun. Is personality part of the mind? Ego?
What personality?
A personality of a person. Is it obviously? It's not the being. The personality of a person. Personality, the
personality
feature,
of a
as in the
person.
characteristics of, like you say, na, he's a very pleasing personality or whatever.
So
Is that?
See, it's now this is association.
Is it
For
ego?
the other person, for an outsider, he does not know मैं body से बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं mind से बात कर रहा हूँ, कि मैं being से बात कर रहा हूँ. उसको तो नहीं कुछ पता ना. ये तो आपको पता है. If he's talking about the wholesome experience. And yes, whatever we see outside is just the body. You cannot see the being, you cannot see the self, you cannot see the mind. So what is visible in the outside world is just the physical body. So any kind of comment or a statement which is referring to the personality is per se talking about the body, because that's the physical form. The being is a formless form. There's no form of being. Mind also cannot be seen. I can't see my mind. But what I can see is this beautiful uniform which has been given to me. That's called the physical body. So yeah, personality, definitely the physical body, but that's what's visible. The other two are not visible. The key to the spiritual dimension. In life-threatening emergency situations, the shift in consciousness from time to presence sometimes happens naturally. The personality that has a past and a future momentarily recedes and is replaced by an intense conscious presence, very still but very alert at the same time. Whatever response is needed then arises out of that state of consciousness. The reason why some people love to engage in dangerous activities such as mountain climbing, car racing, and so on, although they may not be aware of it, is that it forces them in the now. That intensely alive state that is free of time, free of problems, free of thinking, free of the burden of the personality. Slipping away from the present moment, even for a second, may mean death. Unfortunately, they come to depend on a particular activity to be in that state. But you don't need to climb the north face of the eagle. You can enter that state now. So anybody who has done those, adventurous sports, bungee jumping and skydiving and, those fast rafts, or probably, enjoying something which is, really given you that thrill in that being in that moment, that is in the now. But that's an adverse thing. Because जब आप बंजी जंपिंग से जंप कर रहे होते हो, and not necessarily everybody, but yeah, those who really enjoy it are not thinking कि कल मैंने क्या करना है, are not thinking कि कल मेरे साथ क्या हुआ था. They are enjoying that moment. They are in that now. And I have had this moment. So when I did my first bungee in New Zealand, I mean, rather than thinking I'll die, rather than thinking me could, डर लग रहा है, I think I have that photo with me where I was just enjoying. I had the biggest smile on my face. I've never seen that smile back again on my face. But yeah, coming to think of it, reading this gets me back to that experience and reliving that experience. But yes, what a blissful moment that was. I think Ruchi can vouch for it. Are you there?
Ruchi,
It was an excellent moment for you, but I was just the opposite.
That's nothing different for all. But yeah, that, that being in that moment, being in that jump was so much of a thrill that there was nothing I was thinking about. I was just enjoying that experience. So it can be in any experience. For me, probably, yes, I can relate to that bungee jumping experience of mine. Or I remember we went for this river rafting in Rishikesh, where, there is this point where they take you up and they ask you to jump. And everybody was scared to jump. I don't know what came to me. I went and I jumped and I was safe. Oh, we were there for 2 days. So everybody, यार तू बड़ा daring है, तेरे को नहीं डर लगा कि तू मर जाएगा? मैंने कहा लाइफ जैकेट पहनी हुई है यार, एंजॉय तो करो. So yes, coming to think of it, there are few moments of such bliss and joy that they create that mark on you, and whenever you rethink about them, you are again charged. So in the now, adverse situations में भी आ सकता है, being extremes. In the now, हमारे journey में being consciously aware रह के भी आ सकता है. All you have to do is just be in the now. And make sure you have all your awareness, all your consciousness in the now. वो कहीं wander ना करे, so that you are consciously aware in the now. Since ancient times, spiritual masters of all traditions have pointed to the now as the key to the spiritual dimension. Despite this, it seems to have remained a secret. It is certainly not taught in churches and temples. If you go to a church, you may hear readings from the Gospels, such as, "Take no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought of the things of itself." I would like to read this from the book. Wait. Take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Or nobody who puts his hands to the plow and looks back is fit for the kingdom of God. Or you might hear the passage about the beautiful flowers that are not anxious about tomorrow, but live with the ease in the timeless now and are provided for abundantly by God. The depth and radical nature of these teachings are not recognized. No one seems to realize that they are meant to be lived and so bring about a profound inner transformation. So, what is the catch? We have these seasons where all these trees, flowers, plants, they lose everything. In the fall, everything is gone. Kuch nahi bacha. Does the flower think, मेरा क्या होगा? मेरे तो सब कुछ उड़ गया. No. Come to think of it, he has lost everything. But the only thing he has is that faith in the universe that it's going to come back all again. And after the seasons and seasons, it blossoms. It's back, fully green with all the flowers, everything. Because the nature has that deep rooted, connected faith in the universe that it enjoys the now. It is always in the now. And an important factor, since we are all part of the nature, is that the trees do not have a mind. वो faith mind shatter नहीं कर सकता, because वहाँ thought नहीं है. हमारे पास mind है, हमारे पास thought है. So that's one of the key differences. But yeah, the catch is to have faith and to be in the now with that faith in the universe, with that faith in that God Almighty, whatever you want to call it. That is where, there is true surrender and you are actually in the now. And that is where, when I was talking about that, we are living the God's will rather than bothering about our free will. Nice quote. That is where we are living the God's will rather than being bothered about our own free will. Good. The whole essence of Zen consists in walking along the razor edge of now. To be so utterly, so completely present that no problem, no suffering, nothing that is not who you are in your essence can survive in you. In the now, in the absence of time, all your problems dissolve. Suffering needs time. It cannot survive in the now. the great Zen master Rinzai, in order to take his students' attention away from time, would often raise his finger and slowly ask, "What at this moment is lacking?" A powerful question that doesn't require an answer on the level of the mind. It is designed to take your attention deeply into the now. A similar question in the Zen tradition is this: if not now, when? So, whenever you feel that you are drifting away into the past or into the future, you can always use these questions which have been shared by some Zen masters. What at this moment is lacking? सांस चल रही है ना? How does it get any better than this? And again, another question if you want to ask, if not now, then when? The now is only central to the teachings of Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam. Sufis have a saying, the Sufi is the son of time present. And Rumi, the great poet and teacher of Sufism, declares, past and future veil God from our sight, burn up both of them with fire. Meister Eckhart, the 13th century spiritual teacher, summed it all up beautifully. Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time.